Whether it's the gold rush of yesteryear or today's wellness rush, it's hard to argue against the infallible nature of that famous picks and shovels proverb. During the 1850s and 1860s, Sam Brannan was known as the richest man in California. And while he didn't actually dig for gold, his famous one-man parade effectively started the San Francisco Gold Rush, helping spur a seminal event in California's history. Though, how did Sam Brannan become so rich then? The shrewd entrepreneur owned a general store that served the workers at Sutter's Mill, which was the site where gold was discovered. And Sam Brannan getting rich from selling mining supplies is what eventually led to the coining of a well-known business maxim during a gold rush: sell shovels. But while there's obviously outlier prospectors like George Hearst that achieved significant wealth, most who thrived during the gold rush ignored the search of gold. Instead, these successful individuals focused on another resource: the seemingly endless flow of new arrivals who transformed an isolated frontier into a prosperous and industrialized population center in less than a decade. So while Sam Brannan did indeed get rich from selling shovels, profiting from the gold rush didn't necessarily mean literally or even metaphorically selling those mining tools. And while America's Wild West period has been dramatized and romanticized, the insanity of the gold rush is no exaggeration. And you might be wondering, where am I going with this information next? But just sit tight as I swap a few words around in those previous statements and transition us towards what most spectators wrongfully label the Wild West of consumer packaged goods. Regardless, America's health optimization period will undoubtedly be dramatized and romanticized because the growing insanity of the wellness rush is no exaggeration. So how do you then get rich in today's wellness rush? Yes, there's obviously outlier brands like Ghost that achieved significant enterprise value, but most who thrive during the wellness rush will ignore acquiring health optimization end customers altogether. Instead, many successful companies will focus on another resource: the seemingly endless flow of new brand founders who transformed a shadowy niche into a thriving mainstream consumer market in a relatively short period of time. But while the California gold rush lasted only about a decade before the easily accessible precious metals had been largely depleted, the wellness rush is powered by a deeper, multi-decade secular trend towards health-conscious consumption. Moreover, consumers are moving closer every day towards this four-way intersection of taste, convenience, nutrition, and functionality. And consequently, every multi-billion-dollar ingestible CPG category is in the early innings of a remarkable transformation as thousands of brands are competing for consumer attention with wellness-focused marketing and functionality of ingredients. Yet, all that intense market expansion has caused a frenzy and an opportunity for those picks and shovels companies. So after arming you with that contextual remix of history and some current marketplace dynamics, let's examine what inspired this content piece. About 2 weeks ago, TSI Group, a global leader in consumer-focused health and wellness innovation, successfully went through the process of becoming publicly traded on one of the world's most selective capital markets. But TSI Group listing its shares on the Shanghai Stock Exchange isn't just a financial milestone. Instead, it validates a strategic approach that has transformed real health needs into consumer-relevant, science-backed solutions for nearly 3 decades. And TSI Group builds these consumer-centric health solutions through an integrative approach spanning proprietary ingredients, advanced raw material optimization, innovative delivery systems, and personalized nutrition platforms. But before digging any deeper into TSI Group, how about I quickly answer a question that's likely lingering on your tongue? So just how unique is an IPO involving a picks and shovels type consumer health company anyways? Well, that would depend on the time range and corporate structures considered. Even without having a deep understanding of stock market subtleties, I'd bet you could intuitively assume that total global IPOs have fallen annually since the 2021 peak. Additionally, consumer and/or health sciences sector IPO volume has been quite low recently within mainland China and adjacent financial markets. However, global IPO activity has rebounded during the first half of 2025, and most market analysts believe momentum will strengthen in the back half of this year. But looking at that question more broadly, here are a few examples of picks and shovels type consumer health public companies that much of my audience will likely recognize. Firstly, Glanbia owns various supply side businesses within its dairy nutrition and health and nutrition segments. Next, ADM has numerous agricultural products and services involving human, animal, and pet nutrition markets. Furthermore, McCormick & Company has different ingredient technologies and development services within its Flavor Solutions division. Also, amongst the Kirin Holdings multinational business structure, the health sciences segment includes nutraceutical ingredients like Cognizant. And since I'm a big-time business nerd, I could probably name a dozen more global examples, but regardless, many of these companies went public and or acquired the bulk of relevant assets many years ago. However, that's partly why this TSI Group IPO is being watched more closely, as it could become an important spark that builds extra momentum for similar activity over the next year. Though, let's focus our attention again on uncovering the remaining important strategic details and key business metrics involving TSI Group. And just some quick financial mumbo-jumbo housekeeping for the bulk of my audience that's located within the United States. I converted the currency on all of these financial metrics, so numbers will be presented in US dollars, not Chinese yuan. Also, since TSI Group is not an American corporation and has different reporting standards for their public markets, I won't have all of the typical financial metrics available. Lastly, I attempted to dig through some market analyst reports on TSI Group, but the web pages and or documents needed translated, and it could have inadvertently created errors. So please extend me an extra bit of courtesy. But let's start with a quick financial snapshot. Based on its trailing 12 months of performance for the period ending March 31st of 2025, TSI Group reported generating around $145 million in revenue. And while I don't have the year-over-year growth rate for that period, TSI Group revenue did experience just over 12% year-over-year growth in 2024. And if you pull this revenue comparison back much further, you can see that TSI Group grew about 34% in the last 5 years. Additionally, TSI Group has been able to substantially expand its gross and operating margin during that same 5-year period. So then, what's driving the business? TSI Group might be best known for HMB, a metabolite of the essential amino acid leucine that plays an anticatabolic role in muscle tissue. In 2024, TSI Group generated about 29% of its total revenue from HMB and holds more than 50% market share globally. And for those not familiar with HMB, the ingredient was initially sold to and marketed by sports nutrition brands to bodybuilders and strength athletes. But what challenged stronger adoption of HMB in the late 90s and early 2000s was the perfect storm of a small niche market and brands utilizing overhyped claims, maybe as a way of trying to justify much higher input costs at the time. Then, maybe right around 2010, TSI Group was the sole supplier to the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical company Abbott Labs when it started putting HMB into some of its nutritional shakes like Ensure that were marketed to older populations and recovering patients that needed muscle health support. But while some earlier patents related to HMB might have expired, TSI Group continues to be the primary enterprise, keeping the ingredient scientific flywheel spinning quickly, thus holding many valuable patents for various applications and forms of HMB. And that's extremely important because though many nutraceutical ingredients like HMB or even creatine were popularized within the shadowy niche of sports nutrition, it's an ever-growing body of research with positive results that broadens use cases and expands demographics, making them almost must-have staples for everyone. So whether caused by the growing healthy longevity trend, age Ozempic craze, or whatever is next, mainstream society is continually getting more educated around the importance of muscle health, which undoubtedly has inherent trickle-down benefits for HMB and TSI Group. As for the remaining TSI Group proprietary ingredients, the biggest proportion of its total revenue reportedly comes from ammonia sugar, which most commonly refers to glucosamine. According to analyst reports, TSI Group has about 13% global market share, and GlucosaGreen has gradually grown into a world-renowned branded ingredient with high market recognition. Additionally, TSI Group has also developed and launched some of the most researched and effective nutraceutical ingredients, such as Peak ATP for athletic performance, Hobamine for cellular health, and Infinity, which is maybe the one I've probably mentioned the most on here because paraxanthine is becoming red hot within the functional beverages market. And then finally, the remaining TSI Group revenue is generated through advanced raw material optimization, innovative delivery systems like Fizzer, and personalized nutrition platforms such as Tailored Script. But for the final portion of this content, I want to quickly explain what effectively got strategically unlocked for TSI Group after the initial public offering. As mentioned earlier, TSI Group is an important picks and shovels type company positioned within a consumer health market growing globally. And to support global growth, TSI Group is constructing new facilities in the United States, UK, Hong Kong, and Thailand by the second quarter of 2026. Additionally, TSI Group will expand manufacturing operations in Australia and China to boost regional supply chain resilience. But beyond the expanded production capacity, these CapEx investments will accelerate speed to market by enhancing proximity to partners and improving local regulatory compliance. Moreover, a portion of the IPO proceeds will undoubtedly be allocated towards enhancing R&D capabilities to better understand downward customer needs and industry pain points more deeply, as it's that root cause approach of tackling health challenges by creating effective, science-backed, and enjoyable solutions, which has defined the 29-year legacy of TSI Group. But I hope you enjoyed the first principles thinking that went into my latest YouTube video. If you did, can you do me a favor by hitting that like button? That quick and free action helps YouTube know my content is worth spreading to more people. Also, we're getting really close to reaching my next subscriber goal, and it would be great if you join me on this journey. But to do that, we need to fix the fact that slightly more than 3/4 of you that are watching this video right now are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, and that hurts my feelings. Regardless, I want to thank you for giving me some of your attention and time, and I'll see you on the next one.